Teaching with Technology, a guide for working with students and parents. How do you use educational technologies in your classroom? Do you find yourself being pushed or pulled towards specific tools or technologies? Have you ever needed help figuring out how to incorporate technology into your instruction so that your students reach their learning goals? Have you ever had an experience where a technology was a complete and utter failure, or had a reaction like, "How can we use this program?" or "This is an absolute waste of time"? If you can relate to these questions or have ever felt this way, this video is for you. Hello, I'm Shannon Harmon, Associate Professor of Elementary Education at Middle Tennessee State University, and through this video, I want to offer some guidance with incorporating technology in your classroom. My goal is to provide a broad range of suggestions with the hope that some of these ideas will work for you. Please note that I recognize that the use of technology is not a simple issue or decision. The complexity is tied to the need to be attentive to the physical, emotional, and cognitive needs of both yourself and your students. There are also many hardware and software issues to consider, as well as questions about access, funding, and training for the technologies you do use. Ultimately, however, the most important question should be which learning goals can best be met through technology use and which cannot. With this question in mind, I will highlight two areas in which you can work to improve your use of technology. First with students and second with parents. Let's get started. When working with students, we need to find the balance between your teaching with technology and your students' use of technology. With respect to young students, you need to determine what technologies are most appropriate for their ages, interests, and abilities. Of course, we want to know how the technologies we use will positively impact your students' learning, as well as what kinds of netiquette are necessary for the varieties of online and mobile communication that your students use. As teachers, it is important to provide students with the opportunity to identify ways specific tools might be used to improve their learning. To this end, I want to offer 4 ways to collaborate with your students on how best to use technology for the purpose of impacting their learning and effectively manage their use of these tools. 1. Allow student exploration and use purposeful play to encourage learning. For example, after introducing a new app or program, allow students 10 minutes to engage with the technology without a teacher agenda and just let them click around for the purpose of discovery within this new tool. 2. Consider the learning needs of all students within your classroom and meet them where they are, not where the technology is. Remember, learning targets and needs of our students drive the instruction, not the technology. 3. Determine accessibility and availability of the technology in your classroom. We should be careful about balancing the use of technology between those used for instructional purposes and those used for play. In order to best utilize technology for instructional purposes, you should determine those that best align with your learning targets, not just those that are fun. 4. Set policies and rules for device access so that the technology enhances the learning rather than increasing off-task behavior. We know the temptation is great for students to be off-task while learning with technology, so you may want to implement a set of specific rules, procedures, and consequences for such usage in your classroom. Partnering with your students' parents is a great way to manage your limited personal or school resources. Parents can serve as a resource for addressing the digital divide between school and home. For example, some families may have cell phones, but not computers. Relying on cell phones for assignments is potentially limiting, since phones might not be optimal devices for learning compared to laptops or computers. Partnering with parents can help you understand the best way for students to learn at home and can also have the additional benefit of increasing parents' interest in other teaching and learning activities you use. Even if parents are only interested in monitoring their children's assignments and grades, it is still important to get their feedback about your technology use. For example, you can communicate with parents about what you're doing in the classroom and alert them to any changes in routine. In working with your parents, your primary goal should be to enhance rather than replace your face-to-face communication with families. I want to offer suggestions for minimizing parental confusion and concern by highlighting 5 ways to partner with parents to strengthen the work you do within your classroom. For example, 1. Understand your students' levels of access and availability at home and have a backup plan for the lack of access. Consider providing parents with a list of Wi-Fi hotspots in the community and other available resources. 2. Provide parents with details about your students' use of technology and share with them the learning targets that are met when the technology is used. 3. Encourage parents to share the responsibility of learning outcomes. Gather their feedback about the technology and elicit their expertise when working with new technology. 4. Use proactive communication strategies by talking with parents instead of emailing. Remember, the technology should support the face-to-face learning, not replace it. 5. Create specific strategies for working with parents via surveys, a class blog, or create and share short videos with information about your teaching activities that include technology. An ideal way to work effectively with technology is to not only rely on your students and their parents, but to take steps on your own. There are likely to be gaps in your training and your ability to rely on other people. Your school or district may expect or require you to learn about specific tools or applications on your own time and sometimes with your own money. To this end, I want to offer a few resources. In the book, The Elementary School Teacher Technology Guidebook, 21 questions and 282 answers, my colleagues and I provide suggestions from teachers on ways that you can enhance your educational technology suaviness beyond working with the various other stakeholders covered in this video. You can also access any of the following resources to support, build upon, and expand your knowledge. We found these resources were particularly helpful as we prepared our guidebook. All of them can be accessed online as well. Finally, thank you for your time, and I do hope that these ideas will be your friend in addressing the wide variety of questions you might have regarding the use of educational and instructional technology in your classroom.